Hey guys, I'm Scotty. This is Jordan. We're WeMovies.
We are WeMovies.
This is my voice.
And this is Jordan's voice. This is my voice.
This is my voice.
We are here to welcome you to our very special podcast of WeMovies. Guys, if you don't have time to watch a video, that's okay. That's fine. What we've done is we've put all of these links in the video for Stitcher, for Spotify, for Facebook, for YouTube, all of that other stuff. And if you want to listen on the car ride home, just hit that link down below. It'll take you straight to the podcast on whatever podcast streaming service you like to use, would prefer to use. And you can listen like that. But for now, we are going to be talking about Green Book.
Yay!
Trying to catch me riding dirty. I just remember the Weird Al version of that.
Yeah.
X-Men comics, you know I collect them. The pens in my pocket, I must protect them. My ergonomic keyboard never leaves me bored.
Green Book is centered around a real-life character. Scotty, why don't you tell us about that?
So Green Book follows the life, a moment of the life of Tony Lip, who ends up being the bodyguard to Dr. Don
Shirley.
Yeah, why did I forget his name all of a sudden?
Dr. Don Shirley, who was a prolific pianist.
Also had a doctorate in psychology, which is cool.
Interesting. That was not touched on in the movie.
It was mentioned once.
And yeah, that's
And then just let go.
It's very odd. This film.
It's called Green Book because the Green Book was a list, basically, of safe spots for what's the more political correct term?
African-American travelers.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Colored black.
And this film is directed by Peter Farrelly.
Farrelly, I guess.
Farrelly. He's done mostly comedies. So he's done Dumb and Dumber. There's Something About Mary, Dumb and Dumber 2, Me, Myself and Irene, Shallow Hal, Hall Pass, The Three Stooges.
Some of those are really good movies.
The Heartbreak Kid, Stuck on You. There's a lot of...
Well, just before we go into that, I mean, Me, Myself and Irene, Dumb and Dumber, and There's Something About Mary are all fantastic comedies.
Yes, fantastic comedies.
I won't bring up the others.
Which is not this movie. This movie is not a comedy.
No, but I think it isn't. It's good to point out that he was a comedy director because there are some moments in this film which are directed like comedy moments.
Yes,
even
there
though
are.
they might be necessarily shouldn't be done like that. But this is a Oscar-nominated movie, and first of all, Viggo Mortenson and Maharshala, they deserve those nominations.
Yes,
they are both fantastic. Viggo Mortenson is Tony Lip. You have to remind yourself.
He owns that. Like,
he owns it. Yeah.
He just steps into that role, and like we talk about, the Academy Awards are often dominated by actors who play against type.
Yes.
Who play characters that do take a lot of work and a lot of effort to get into. And I feel like Viggo Mortenson truly deserves the nomination for this role because he not only plays against type, but he plays a character that is... he's just from a different time period.
He is, but he's actually a character that takes about half an hour in the movie to get to liking because even though he is a failure of a human being, Tony Lip is really. But he has a charisma about him that Viggo Mortenson brings to him that you feel for him very strongly, very quickly. But Maharshala also does the same thing. And it's their charisma together, I think, that really makes this movie a movie.
And we were talking earlier while we were having lunch about the difference between... the focus on character and the focus on story and where this film kind of falls into it. And for me personally, I don't believe you can overdevelop characters, but what I do believe is you can misunderstand your own characters to a point where you're trying to over-explain them to the audience. Thankfully, this film doesn't do that. No. But what I do feel is that the writers and the directors didn't fully understand what these characters were doing and who they really were. However, the actors, Viggo Mortenson and Maharshala Ali, fully understood these characters.
Well, I think it's slightly different. I think it's more that there is... So because it's based on a true story, these people are real. There's a need to tell that real story. And I actually think the real story doesn't hold up to the performances that the actors are providing for this these characters.
I
actually think if they had gone like they're already taking nuance and providing things to the story, adding on things. They should add on more. I actually think this is a story that deserves embellishment in some respect, because the characters that Maharshala and Viggo Mortensen are bringing to the screen are so real and so powerful that you actually want there to be more gravitas around them.
Yeah.
The film itself, its construct is a basic, something like a buddy cop movie. It's like two characters on a road trip.
Yeah, it is one of those road trip films, and I kind of wish that this film would lean a little bit more into that.
Yeah, I do too.
Trope, because there are times where it is that buddy kind of relationship going on, but it just feels very sudden. There's a lot of stuff that happens straight off the bat that you're like, it doesn't feel like these characters have warmed up enough.
Yeah. So as I was saying with the first half an hour with Tony Lip learning to like him, well, it's also learning to like the movie because I think up until you meet Don Shirley, there is this absence in this movie because Tony Lip feels like he's alone in this world to a certain extent. And the fact that the characters around him don't feel as real as he does.
Yeah.
It's this weird thing where a character is so real, it makes the other characters less impactful.
Yeah, it does. I noticed that as well. A lot of his family, even Linda Cardellini, who plays his wife, she gives a great performance.
It is. She's very good.
However, her character doesn't really have a lot to do.
No, her character is cliche mum from the 1960s.
Yeah. And she doesn't have is it
1960s?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's pretty.
It should be 1970. No,
doesn't matter.
It has to be 1960s because Bob Kennedy is the.
Chief of Homeland Security or something. I don't know, Chief of State, something like that.
It's the one it's not the VP. It's the actually important job.
Yeah,
it's the actual important job in
the Kennedys are in power. That's what you need to know politically about the setting of this film.
Yes, Bob Kennedy is an extremely important person in history.
Yes,
arguably more important than JFK was.
Yes,
so, there we go.
Where were we?
Well, that's the thing. This film had. Okay, I actually think this is another point to bring up.
Yes.
There is, because of where it is, when it's set, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of social crisis. So there's a lot of need to put it on screen. And I actually think they put too much on screen. I think. So there are moments in this movie where cops pull over characters, people go to jail. And this might have actually happened. But the way it's shown, it feels like, this is a racist status beat that we need to hit. This is a racist status beat.
Yeah.
So he's performing for these people, and he's told
white people in the South.
Yeah. And
well, hold on. Before you get, can we do deep dive? I think we can.
Oh, we're already in deep dive.
So yeah, okay. Just for you guys, we're starting officially deep dive right now.
Deep dive.
Boom! I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. So these stereotypical archetypes.
Yes.
I did not like them. I felt
the problem was they were too obvious.
Yeah. It was kind of like, well, everyone knows that cops were racist back in the day, so this is just normal, And it just didn't feel
the other problem was
real.
First of all, Don Shirley is a fantastic character. I want to know more about him. But the moment where he's sitting with the other black people and how different he was also felt just too on the nose.
Yeah.
It felt like, okay, here we're showing him how he's more like these classy ponce compared to these street savvy people. And also the scene where they stop in front of the people farming.
Yeah, that was a bit on the nose.
It was a bit on the nose. I mean, it was cool. I actually thought it was kind of cool.
It was a good...
I still got the on the nose stuff.
Yeah. But that scene was a little better for me because there was no dialogue.
No, it was just
showing, and that
was very good.
That was a good choice. I feel that was a really great choice by the director to do that. I think instead of
it's funny we're already starting talking about scenes individually, and that's one problem with this movie is it does feel like a collection of scenes
rather than a full collated film that's been put together deliberately. And I think that's a very good point to bring up. Is this film does feel like individual scenes. And earlier on in the Alita podcast, or before, I think, we did a little mini podcast about the roundtable that you were listening to with directors. Now, some of them said, look, I need to do scene by scene. Others said we need to start from the end and go back. And then other ones said we start from the beginning and go forward.
Some of them needed a title before they could do anything.
Exactly. And I feel like this kind of film has been done in the first way of doing things, where they've focused on individual scenes, but they haven't focused on the film as a whole. And I think that's where it fails the most. It just doesn't feel like our characters have progressed far enough for me to believe them as characters by the end of the film. I think
I don't know about that, because I think there is character development here. I don't think there's enough around them to deserve that character development.
That's what I'm saying. Like the actors bring a lot more work to it than the script has.
Yes. No, that's exactly what I meant as well.
Yeah, and that's fine. It can work, but I feel like because the script has been written. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the actual script. The script is actually at least co-written by Tony Lip's actual son.
Yep.
And he took a lot of the notes and stuff that his father and Maharshala Ali's character. I'm sorry, I'm
Don
drawing
Shirley. Yeah, no,
Don Shirley. These guys have collated together and written down. And before they made it, before he started writing it, he was told by Don Shirley. Don Shirley didn't want a lot of this to come out.
Well, I think it was in his will. Don Shirley didn't want a lot of his life known to the public. In certain aspects, maybe it's to do with his family life, maybe it's to do with this. I don't actually know what he doesn't want, but I do know that there's stuff that Don Shirley himself doesn't want actually made into a movie.
And there is something actually in this movie, and there was an interview with the real Tony Lip, who actually became an actor after his little stint as a driver, and he's actually he was in The Godfather Part 2.
Oh, cool!
And he was also in The Sopranos as well. He was in The Sopranos as one of the head
honchos. He's got that character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he said that Don Shirley didn't want. He assumed that Don Shirley didn't want a film made about his life because he believed that he was a homosexual. And so he kept that part hidden, which I think is a little bit of a shame that's the case, because this film,
which is weird, because
tries to tackle it, but it doesn't tackle it truthfully, I feel. Because I read an interview with his son, the writer of this film.
Yes.
And after watching it, I came to the conclusion that it just didn't feel like he was being honest enough, because in the actual story, what
there's a scene.
Tony
once again,
wants,
this is an individual scene in the movie which feels out of context.
Yeah, because in this story, they do get arrested. Well, the cops try to arrest Don Shirley, but they try to arrest him because he was drunk in a bathhouse and he was coming on to, they said, 3 or 4 other young men, and because of that, the cops were called. He was causing a bit of a ruckus kind of thing.
Now, you also got to remember, this is a black man interacting in the South, so whatever the reason isn't necessarily
and
homosexuality.
It felt like they tried to overlean onto that homosexuality thing, because it's a relevant and prevalent thing in our society today, that people get judged for their sexuality and judged for their skin color and all this other stuff, and it felt like they were leaning a bit too hard on that to try and get audiences in the seat.
And once again, it's that thing where they're doing it in other aspects as well, playing on racial note cliches, where this feels very ham-fisted.
It feels like fourth-hand information.
Yes.
From somebody who is trying not to offend anyone.
Yes.
And that is a huge problem for me. I would much rather see a film that is truthful and doesn't care about offending anyone and does offend people than something that is trying to just be in that middle lane. Because I think it still
has offended people, because his family has come out against this, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't know exactly what point they were against. I actually think it might be this point.
Well, we talked about it earlier because we did see some reports out there saying that, it should be done from Don Shirley's perspective. I don't necessarily think that would have fixed any of the problems in this film.
Okay, first of all, this is Tony Lip's movie.
Yes.
I think that should be pointed out. It's
written by his son, for goodness sake.
Makes a lot of sense that he's in the lead seat, and Don Shirley, Maharshala Ali. Once again, Maharshala Ali's great. Should we just go to that? who are the other nominees? Because I want to go to this right now.
Okay. Well, let's talk about his performance first, and I'll get it up.
Before I saw this, I thought it's always going to be everyone against Maharshala Ali, and I still think that. I haven't changed my opinion on that whatsoever. Mostly because he is done surely. I lose Maharshala Ali, I lose both of these characters. They're powerful acting. It's power acting. They're perfectly in character, and it overshadows the rest of the movie. So because of that, I haven't seen Can You Ever Forgive Me yet. I want to see that because I think that'd be an interesting movie to compare.
Yeah,
because that's another movie that's two powerful character actors.
We've also got The Hate You Give as well, which along the lines of racism in America. I think that's also another one. And If Beale Street Could Talk.
Regina Hall does have an Oscar nomination for that.
She does. Yep. So for the best actor in a supporting role, obviously Maharshala Ali for Green Book. We have Adam Driver for Black Klansman. Sam Elliott for A Star Is Born, Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me, and Sam Rockwell for Vice.
Okay, so it's I don't think Adam Driver or Sam Elliott are really in this race. I think it's basically Richard E. Grant, Maharshala Ali, and
I'm not even sure Sam Rockwell is in the race. I think it's between Richard E. Grant and Maharshala Ali. Yeah. Just based upon and. Bear in mind, we haven't seen Can You Ever Forgive Me yet, or Vice. But I feel like Maharshala Ali is definitely a front runner for this. Year.
I think he's got it. But also interesting, I remember when Richard E. Grant talked about. I listened to an interview when he heard about his nomination, and he was surprised that Tim Chalamet. I always call him Tim Chalamet. Timothy
Chalamet.
Chalamet. Yeah, I'm just going to call him Tim Chalamet because it's
Tim Chalamet.
Tim Chalamet.
Little Tim Chalamet.
Timothy. Yeah.
Chalamet.
Because Richard E. Grant was happy, but also surprised that he got nominated over him.
Which is interesting. Richard E. Grant is a very humble sort.
I actually think he's got a massive ego, but he's aware of it, and he's it's weird. I think he's both humble and has massive ego, and I think I think he's a good person. He's also an underrated actor.
Yeah.
Did you ever used to watch the old Scarlet Pimpernel?
Yeah. Classics.
It is.
Classic. As for actor in a leading role, obviously, again, Viggo Mortensen for Green Book. We have Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody, Willem Dafoe for At Eternity's Gate, which is the one, it's not even out over here yet. Van Gogh, yeah.
It comes out in a week.
It does come out in a week.
In Australia.
And I think it's only like a very limited release as well.
Yes.
Because it's a very indie flick.
Oh, I've watched 2 or 3 movies about Van Gogh, and they're all good. There's one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
That's right, yeah.
There's an episode of Doctor Who.
Yep.
Which is also great. It's one of the best.
It's one of the highlights of that season.
It was one of the highlights of that season, yeah.
And then there's Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born.
Yep.
And Christian Bale for Vice.
Which is a lot tougher.
Yeah. It is a lot tougher. Because I think, just judging by the type of film, I kind of want Willem Dafoe to win.
Yeah, and also because that movie's not nominated for anything else, and also because we love Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, you can't.
How can you not love
this
Willem?
guy? Like, he's just so good.
What was it? A couple of years ago, he did another movie that was really good. It was the one that was almost shot entirely on iPhone about the Disneyland hotel thing, all about this subculture.
Yeah. The single woman raising a children.
Yeah, that one. I can't remember what it's called, but that was a really good movie.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Which only just, it didn't get many nominations either, but it was another movie that was just... So Willem Dafoe has been picking these really good movies, apart from Aquaman. But then again...
I think he needed a job when that...
I don't know. I think... because
I would do it for the paycheck, to be honest.
But he loved he wanted to do Green Goblin. He desperately wanted to do Green Goblin. I'm glad he did, because he was fantastic.
He was so good. The film you're thinking of is The Florida Project.
The Florida Project, yes, that's it.
Yeah. I think we should get back to Green Book.
Yes.
I do think those performances are warranted. I think they're very much at the top of their game, both of them. And Viggo Mortensen, for me, is one of the most underrated actors.
He has been for a long time.
For a very long time.
Because also, some of the movies he's chosen are so off the wall as well. Like
Captain Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that movie.
I love parts of that movie. I'm not going to say I love the whole thing, but
I do actually love the whole thing because it's a very personal film for me. Is. I have there's a relative in my family who is very similar to Captain Fantastic. Oh. So a lot of the stuff that he goes through, I have seen in a person that is very close to me. I don't have anyone
closely connected to me, but I have seen people like that before. And they're just always fascinating characters.
Yeah.
So it was a good movie to see.
And Viggo shines in it. He's just... And so do most of the kids, like the young actors and actresses in that film.
But the thing is, we keep talking about these actors and not the movie itself. And I think that's the problem. Is once again, their performances, individually and together, are greater than the rest of the movie.
Yes,
it overshadows it. So if they had done a slightly worse performance, it actually might make the movie better overall because
it would match everything around it.
Yes,
and. Like, I have a similar problem with The Revenant, with Leonardo DiCaprio. I felt like Leo's performance and the cinematography and also the sound design were so far and above the rest of the film.
Okay, I don't know about that because I thought is it Domhnall Gleeson, Tom Hardy?
Domhnall Gleeson, Tom Hardy, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were great in it as well.
Oh, they were, but that's not like...
I actually thought in some parts they were better than Leo, but...
I would agree with that.
Yes.
I would agree with that. But the story for me was subpar. Yes. There was nothing really going on there except for revenge/survival porn, and it just...
And also, once again, it's like, how does the story serve the characters, or how do the characters serve the story? Like, I think that story, I mean, it does sort of serve the characters in Revenant, but in this, I feel like the story detracts from the characters. Which, once again, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it lets the characters be there and express themselves. So, my favorite sequences, I think, in the movie are actually when Don Shirley is on the piano doing his piano stuff.
I wanted to see more of that.
When Maharshala Ali just has that smile at the end, it's just perfect. And it's not Maharshala Ali. You can tell that is a Don Shirley smile. That is someone who loves music. One of my other favorite scenes, before you get an opportunity to speak again, is when...
I'm ready.
Is when Don Shirley's talking about how he can't do white man's music. Like, he can't do classical, like Chopin and stuff, even though he loves that stuff because people won't accept him doing it. He does this other stuff instead. But then Tony Lip's like, I love what you're doing. And he talks about how much it means to him with just one simple movement. And you can tell that Don Shirley is extremely grateful and happy to hear this feedback. And
that is all Maharshala Ali doing his thing. And I think it's also worth pointing out that Maharshala Ali underwent some very quick but very high-intensity training in classical piano. He doesn't actually play most of this, like most of the scenes where you see him playing, they've CGI'd in the hands of this other musical artist. I can't remember his name, and I feel really horrible for it because he's amazing.
We're going to put a link on the screen.
Yeah, so check him out. He's great. He's also worked with a lot of hip hop artists in recent years, and he is very young. He's only like 26 or 27, which is crazy because he plays all of those songs. And they said there was a little interview, and this is one of my favorite things about this film, even though it's not a fantastic movie per se, but a lot of people involved with this movie did amazing work.
Yes.
And this kid, he taught Maharshala Ali how to play basic chords and some little riffs that they could do in close-ups and all this other stuff. And then their collaboration was actually Maharshala coming over to him sometimes during when he was trying to teach him something. And he said, okay, that's cool, but can you do it with better posture like Don Shirley would? And so he would watch him and he would just soak all of what was going on in front of him in, and then he would replicate it on the piano in front of the camera.
I think that's a very good point to bring up, is the posture that Maharshala Ali has brings so much presence to his role.
This is another thing that he actually said in the same interview. Maharshala Ali was someone who wanted to embody a pianist while he was not at the piano. So whenever we see him in this film, he's walking or he's sitting in the car or he's, standing in a jail cell.
I think
his posture never changes.
There's a scene where they're eating fried chicken, and that's probably the best scene to illustrate this point. Because he has such precision as he's never eaten fried chicken before.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what Aretha Franklin and Chucky, all these people's music sounds like. He knows who the people are, but he doesn't have a clue what the music sounds like. And he's being introduced to it by Tony Lip. And that is these are fantastic moments.
And I kind of wish those were the moments we saw more of.
Yes.
I think that would have been more powerful than the moral expositing that this film does too much of.
Yes.
It's very preachy, this movie.
It is.
But it's preachy in a way that it doesn't want to offend people, which I think is, like, if you're going to preach, it's the worst kind of preaching to do.
Yep.
But yeah, aside from that, there's so many technical aspects of this film that I really like.
One of the last shots is where before, of course, they have the ending where everyone gets together, but before that, you have Don Shirley on his own in his room. That shot is brilliant.
Yeah.
Even though it's preachy and it's you know what's going on here, the shot itself is just brilliant.
Well, there's no dialogue. It's just him, just there existing in his own loneliness, and
there's the visual representation of the stone. He's letting Tony Lip into his life and as a friend.
And it's great. It's nice.
Yeah.
And I wish we saw more of that kind of stuff because it tries too hard to say it instead of showing it throughout the film.
So although I like most of the musical aspects, when they go to the bar and he plays on the piano, I like the first half of it. But when the band come up, once again, it was like, this is a bit preachy again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was like, although it looks nice, once again, it has that overshadow of sort of in your face moralism.
And it was kind of like, look at us, we're doing something good kind of thing.
This is both high class and low class music coming together.
I would like to point out the scene where they get arrested and thrown into jail, where he calls, what's his face, his mate up in the government and all that other stuff.
Yes.
That didn't happen on this trip. They went on a couple of trips after Christmas where they did a similar thing and then they got arrested then. And this goes back to the whole moralizing thing. I feel like this and the whole first person, fourth accounting kind of thing where they like, it just felt like they cherry picked some of their more emotional moments of the real story and then they just kind of jammed them all together.
What's funny is that whole sequence feels so out of place in the whole movie.
Yeah, it does.
Especially where it is. It feels like just beforehand there's about to be a bit of character growth, and this is almost character de-evolution.
Yeah,
it feels like the characters are going backwards instead of forwards.
Because I felt when they were at that restaurant / hotel where they were going to perform, and he's like, "No, you can't eat here," and Don Shirley gives Tony power to decide. Like he says, look, it's up to you. I'll play if you personally, Tony, want me to play here, I will play here. But if you don't, we're leaving. And Tony says, I'm out of here. That was more powerful than when they were in jail. Far more powerful.
Also, one funny scene, which shouldn't be funny, is when he shoots the gun.
Yeah, that was really odd.
It's weird because it felt like it could be done so much better.
And it also kind of felt, I don't know if it felt that this way to you, but for me, it kind of felt like, because this is set after the whole bar scene where they're playing up the front and all this stuff. And it's kind of like in that scene, they said, black people are cool. And then they come outside and Tony fires the gun. It's like, oh no, but you got to watch out for those black people. They could be stealing your car. And I was like, oh, that's not a good choice.
No.
That's a bad choice. Because it just felt like they were contradicting themselves once again. And
I'm not sure how contradictory it was because...
Well, that's just me. That was my first impression.
So, I have the same first impression, but when you think about it, it sort of does make sense. The idea of flashing money around in a bar and then someone going to rob you actually makes sense.
But they didn't focus on that side of things. No. It kind of just felt like they went, black people can be shifty.
No, the thing is, I thought it was just the point that he actually had a gun. That was like, that's the whole point of the scene to me.
And that's not worth it. Like, that's not a good enough reason.
We should explain. There was a previous scene where he's threatening these guys who are beating up Don Shirley. And he acts as if he has a gun, but we never see the gun.
Yeah.
So the whole time, we don't know if he's got a gun. Then Don Shirley asks afterwards, do you have a gun? He's like, nah.
But that's such a cheap way to get a laugh, I feel.
I agree. That's the problem with it.
Yeah, it was just not good.
I'm still saying, the thing is, it's still slightly entertaining, but
it's
cheap.
But it's very cheap, which is a shame. Very very much a shame.
Also, the scene where Lip takes the whole racist hotel guy aside and
and throws him up against the wall.
Yeah,
I actually didn't mind it. I felt like it was for the purpose of the story.
Yeah, no, that's what I liked about it.
Yeah,
it's just this once again the placement of where it was in the story felt wrong again.
Again, like it's the whole collection of scenes that were put together.
Yes,
but it wasn't. They didn't mesh well with each other. And I think we've seen other directors who have this issue as well. Zack Snyder is one of them, where he creates individual scenes that look great, that sound great, that work great, but when you put them together, they don't mesh together.
No.
They all have almost the same amount of importance, and there's no ebb and flow. There's no up and down. There's just a straight line from point A to B to C, and there's no rising and falling of emotions or rising and falling of narrative.
There was one, I should say, did you buy the Russian guy?
He just was a plot point to me.
Okay, because I thought he was someone. I thought the actor was good, but once again, I agree with you. He became plot pointy, but I felt like his character could have been done was interesting, and there was more that could have been done there.
I agree with that. It's just a shame that they used him as an expository mouthpiece instead of.
Once again, I think that's because Maharshala, Viggo Mortenson, their chemistry, they wanted to do more with them.
Yeah,
so that there was
and that's fair enough. When you've got those two phenomenal actors on set, utilize them. Like, do it. And I feel like if those two actors, if they had chosen weaker actors that didn't have as much experience or as much presence as those two did, I don't think this film would be anywhere close to as good as it is.
No.
Even though it's not great, it's like they hold it together.
Yeah. So to summarize, we both agree that Viggo Mortensen and Maharshala Ali definitely deserve Oscar nominations, but the film itself doesn't? ?
Yeah. Doesn't ? I think that's a good summary. Like, I don't think it does.
So, if we are going to say that, we have to think about movies that do deserve in its place. And there's hundreds of. We could go First Man. We could go Can You Forgive Me? We can go
Annihilation is another one. All of these films. All of these films are far more cohesive as stories.
Yes.
Than this film is, which. It should not. I'm going to say it shouldn't be on the Best Picture list. I'm sorry, just shouldn't.
Once again, similar to Black Panther, is it because of the conversation that it's having it's creating a discussion in the mainstream media? Is that enough for a reason for it to be there to be nominated?
Not because it's not the discussion that we want, but it's the type of discussion I don't think is the right kind of discussion for this kind of film to be sparking. The conversation that this film is sparking in the media and all over the place is one of, did they do it the right way instead of the topic that they're talking about? Like Black Klansman is one that sparks the right kind of conversation to warrant being nominated, I feel, because they're talking about deeper things.
And I was talking to you earlier about this. Cinema at the moment has a really strange way of portraying the police. It's doing it one of two ways. It's either doing they are the boogeyman under the bed.
Yep.
Or
pigs.
Or they are celebrating police violence, as in the Mark Wahlberg version of the Boston bombings. Do you know the name of that film?
No.
It's the name of the day it's on, isn't it?
I can't remember.
Patriots Day or something like that?
Patriots Day sounds about right. I'm going to Google it.
Yeah.
I'm going to Google it.
It's this weird thing. So...
Patriots Day, 2016.
Which is the funny thing about Black Klansman, although there's a lot of, you could argue, anti-police mentioned in this movie, it's actually showing from the police point of view, and they're all shown, apart from one character, but he's shown as
but he's from New York, so he's fine, Like he's further up in the, like he's further north than the rest of the police they run into.
Yeah.
Everyone like down the southern side of America, all the policemen are just portrayed as fat or ugly or dumb or racist, and it's one of those.
Yep.
All of them all at once. Like, and it's so shallow.
It is shallow because the majority of police are out there. I hope. I'm pretty certain this is true. I expect this to be true, that most people who are policemen are good people.
Yeah.
They have strong moral compasses, and they're doing a dangerous job, especially in the States. As much as I hate guns, I understand why police carry guns in the States.
And that being said, like, because of the last couple of years of police shootings, especially the ones where the victims are unarmed.
Yes.
there's a lot of other stuff going on there that like I feel like if you even put like a normal, decent person in some of those situations, fear has this nasty effect of taking hold and causing you to do something that's absolutely horrendous.
And I think that's the problem, is we're seeing it as a major issue as opposed to an individual issue, which I think is what it is.
Exactly. And I think glazing over it by making a lot of your characters more, what's the term? Just tropes, essentially, physical tropes, stereotypes. I think that's a bit dangerous.
It is. And I think a lot of the policemen in this movie, Green Book, fall into that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They do have the nice moment of the police pulling them over to help them with a tire. But once again, it plays
on the fear of the characters. And that's not right. There's no reason for that scene to actually be in the film, aside from playing with the expectations and also the fear of the characters. And that's not the point of this film.
No. What
they set out to do is completely different. And
exactly. It's actually got nothing to do with the relationship between Lip and Shirley. It's got more to do with what's going around them. And so to summarize, the film involving Viggo Mortensen as Tony Lip and Maharshala Ali as Don Shirley, their relationship, that's a great movie. The problem is the stuff that's going around that movie isn't good.
Yep. Well, that's a pretty good summary, Scotty. Yeah. So again, like, would we put it on the list for Best Picture?
No.
Absolutely not.
I would much rather have First Man up there or Hereditary. Those are the two.
Or Annihilation.
Annihilation's great. I just think in my head those two are...
For the Academy, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, wow. Okay, well, I guess that's Green Book for us.
That's Green Book for us.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want, you can comment down below if you disagreed with us or if you agreed with us or if you've got a different take on this film.
Yes.
We would love to hear from you. Also, shout out to Chris. Thank you so much for your support, buddy. You're awesome. Our one fan. We should probably start making T-shirts or something saying WeMovies one fan. Yeah, shout out to Chris. Hashtag shout out to Chris. That's what we should do. But yeah,
when's
thank you.
Caleb's birthday?
I don't know.
We're
going to find out.
We're going to get him a personalized T-shirt of shout out to Chris. Oh no, he listens to the podcast because he's vain.
Does he though? Does he? I think we should have I think we should quiz Caleb on how much he actually listens to his own podcast.
That's a good idea.
That'd be great. Thank you guys once again. You guys are awesome. We have been WeMovies. I'm Jordan.
I'm Scotty.
That is Scotty. And we are out.
See ya.